Nobody talks about this. For decades, Harlem has produced larger-than-life figures whose stories became legends long before they became history. Some were feared, some were respected, some became symbols of power. But few names carry the same mystery as Eric Vonzip Martin. Here was a man whose name was connected to powerful circles and influential people and countless street stories. Yet somehow he managed to avoid the legal downfall that swallowed so many others around him. Whether you see him as a mastermind, a survivor, or simply a man who understood how to navigate dangerous environments, one question continues to follow his story. How did Eric Vonzip Martin stay free while so many others fell? Before we get into it, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment below. If you enjoy stories about street legends, power, mystery, and the untold history behind some of the most talked about figures, you're in the right place. Now let's get into it. The story of Eric Vonzip Martin isn't just about one man. It's about power, influence, survival, and understanding a game that most people never fully see. While many street figures burned bright and disappeared quickly, Vonzip seemed to move differently. He wasn't known for public outbursts, reckless behavior, or making unnecessary enemies. Instead, he built a reputation as someone who understood how to stay several steps ahead. That's what makes his story so fascinating. For decades, rumors, theories, and debates have surrounded his name. Some people believe luck played a role. Others think intelligence and strategy were the real reasons. Some even suggest there were deeper forces at work behind the scenes. Whatever the truth may be, the mystery remains alive today. One of the most common theories people discuss is the idea of government cooperation. Now let's be clear. There has never been publicly proven evidence confirming such claims. However, whenever a person remains active around major players and avoids the legal consequences that affect others, speculation naturally follows. In neighborhoods across Harlem, stories circulated for years. People asked the same question repeatedly. How could someone be so connected, so visible, and so influential without facing the same fate as many of the people around him? The theory became part of the legend itself. Whether true or false, the rumors continued because people struggled to explain how someone could remain standing while entire organizations rose and fell around them. When a mystery lasts long enough, people begin creating explanations to fill the gaps. That's exactly what happened with Vonzip. But another explanation may be much simpler. Perhaps he simply understood the importance of staying low-key. Throughout history, many powerful figures have made the same mistake. They became too visible. They wanted recognition. They wanted people to know their names. They wanted the spotlight. The spotlight can be dangerous. According to those familiar with Harlem's street culture during that era, Vonzip rarely seemed interested in becoming the public face of anything. While others chased attention, he allegedly focused on relationships, structure, and influence. Instead of making noise, he quietly built connections. That's a major difference. When people become obsessed with fame, they often expose themselves. Every flashy move creates another opportunity for someone to watch, investigate, or gather information. Those who survive the longest usually understand that visibility can become a liability. In many ways, Vonzip's reputation grew not because he constantly sought attention, but because people kept talking about him even when he wasn't speaking. That's a powerful position to hold. Some observers compare that strategy to a chess player rather than a street player. A chess player thinks several moves ahead. They don't react emotionally. They don't move recklessly. They focus on positioning, if that perception is accurate. It may explain part of why his story lasted for decades. But there's another factor that many people believe played an even bigger role. Distance. One of the oldest principles in organized operations is creating layers between yourself and potential problems. According to stories told by people familiar with that world, Vonzip allegedly understood this concept extremely well. The idea is simple. The more layers that exist between a leader and the activity happening on the ground, the harder it becomes to connect one directly to the other. Instead of direct involvement, there are buffers. Instead of direct contact, there are intermediaries. Instead of clear lines, there are complicated networks. Again, much of this comes from public speculation and street folklore rather than proven facts. However, it remains one of the most frequently discussed explanations for how certain individuals avoid legal exposure while maintaining influence. Many people describe Vonzip as someone who understood the value of keeping distance between himself and day-to-day street activity. By the time investigators followed one path, another layer existed. By the time one connection was examined, another person stood in between. Whether exaggerated or not, these stories contributed heavily to his reputation as a man who was difficult to pin down. Then there was the nightlife scene. This is where the story takes another interesting turn. During the 1980s and 1990s, Harlem's nightlife wasn't just about music and entertainment. Clubs were gathering places. They were networking centers. They were locations where relationships were formed, deals were discussed, and influence was measured. According to many accounts, Vonzip became deeply connected to that environment. Nightclubs gave powerful people something valuable: access. When influential individuals from different worlds enter the same room, opportunities emerge. Business connections form, friendships develop, alliances are created. People often focus on money when discussing power, but access can be even more valuable. Access allows someone to build relationships across different communities. It allows them to meet people from business, entertainment, politics, and the streets all at once. It creates opportunities that don't exist elsewhere. Many observers believe this ability to connect different circles strengthened Vonzip's position over time. Instead of being limited to one world, he became associated with several. And that brings us to another important factor: fear and respect. Whether deserved or exaggerated, reputation matters. In neighborhoods where trust is limited and consequences can be severe, people often remain silent. Sometimes that silence comes from loyalty. Sometimes it comes from fear. Often it's a combination of both. According to stories from that era, many people simply did not want to involve themselves in matters connected to powerful figures. The risks were considered too high. That kind of environment creates challenges for anyone trying to build a legal case. Without cooperation, investigations become harder. Without witnesses, questions remain unanswered. Without testimony, rumors continue to grow. This silence helped fuel the mystery surrounding Vonzip's name. The less people talked publicly, the more legendary the stories became privately, and legends tend to grow larger over time. However, perhaps the most significant explanation involves something bigger than the streets themselves: connections. Many people believe the most successful individuals understand one universal truth: relationships create opportunities. Over the years, Vonzip was photographed alongside numerous recognizable figures from entertainment, sports, business, and other influential circles. Those images became part of his public image. To supporters, these relationships demonstrated respect. To critics, they raised questions. To observers, they added another layer to the mystery. The reality is that influence often works through networks. The more people someone knows, the more doors become available. Relationships can create protection, information, opportunities, and leverage. Some Harlem residents have long argued that Vonzip mastered this aspect of the game better than almost anyone else. While others focus solely on one lane, he allegedly built connections across multiple worlds. Street figures, business figures, community figures, entertainment figures. Each new relationship increased his reach, and with increased reach came increased influence. Whether those connections directly protected him or simply enhanced his reputation remains a matter of debate. What cannot be denied is that they became a significant part of his story. By the 2000s, Eric Vonzip Martin had transformed into something larger than a typical street figure. He had become a symbol. For some people, he represented survival. For others, he represented strategy. For others still, he represented unanswered questions. That's why discussions about him continue today. People aren't just fascinated by what happened. They're fascinated by what didn't happen. Many figures from previous generations faced indictments, convictions, or public downfalls. Their stories ended in predictable ways. Eric Vonzip's story did not. Instead, it remains surrounded by uncertainty. And uncertainty creates intrigue. The biggest twist in this entire story may be that there is no single answer. People often search for one explanation behind complex outcomes, They want one secret, one hidden reason, one piece of information that explains everything. But life rarely works that way. Perhaps it wasn't luck. Perhaps it wasn't connections alone. Perhaps it wasn't strategy alone. Perhaps it was a combination of timing, intelligence, relationships, discipline, reputation, and understanding human nature better than the people around him. That's often how long-term survival works, not through one brilliant move, but through thousands of smart decisions made consistently over time. Whether you admire him, criticize him, or simply find his story fascinating, Eric Vonzip Martin remains one of Harlem's most mysterious figures. Decades later, people still debate his legacy. They still argue about the rumors. They still question the theories. And they still wonder how one man managed to navigate environments that destroyed so many others. Maybe that's why his story refuses to disappear. Because at its core, it isn't just a story about the streets. It's a story about power. It's a story about influence. It's a story about survival. And most importantly, it's a story about mystery. A mystery that even today may never be fully solved. So what do you think? Was Eric Vonzip Martin simply smarter than the competition? Was he a master strategist who understood the rules better than everyone else? Or is there still a hidden piece of the puzzle that the public has never seen? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this story, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss future content. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.